Thank you very much. Please be seated. Welcome, fellow members, ladies and gentlemen, for this meeting of the Council. Please obviously make sure your mobile phones are turned off. And obviously for members of the public, elected members will know where the emergency exits are. If we need to leave the building, obviously leave by the nearest exit. If that's not appropriate to do so, then there are exits at the front here as well, and we assemble in the car park outside. Just before we go into the excuse me, the meeting fully, I would just like to pay respects to Alan Jenkins. As members may be aware, Honorary Alderman Alan Jenkins died recently. He represented Norton from 1984 to 2007, was a chair of this council and a chair of the planning committee during his years of service, and was made an honorary alderman in 2007. So I think it would be fitting to remember Alan and his family and his friends by having a minute's silence. So if you'd like to stand for that, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, agenda item 2, apologies for absence. Are there any apologies for absence? Anybody joining us remotely, would you please make sure your microphones are turned off unless you're speaking to us? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we have apologies from Councillors Hope, Thackeray and Graham.
Thank you.
Yeah, apologies from Councillor Cleary.
Thank you. Councillor Andrews. (2022) be approved and signed as a correct record. Is that seconded? Thank you, Councillor Goodrick. And as Chair of Council, I move that the minutes of the extraordinary council meeting held on the 8th of December 2022 be approved and signed also as a correct record. Is that seconded? Councillor Goodrick, again, thank you very much. So if you'd like to vote for those two, please.
Mr. Chair, that's 17 for and 2 abstentions.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 5, matters of urgent business. There are no matters of urgent business except the item under urgency powers 311A which we'll discuss, as I said, under agenda item 9. Agenda item 6, declarations of interest. If anybody's got any declarations of interest, would you declare them now, please? Councillor Potter.
Chair, yeah, as a director of Pickering Town CIC, I've got a prejudicial interest in 10G. So I won't be taking part in the debate or voting on that issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Goodrich.
Thank you, Chairman. I just think we should note that there are members of the North Yorkshire County Council here, and then members of the new Unitary Authority are here this evening, and I'd like it put on record.
Thank you. That's noted. Councillor Paul Andrews.
Yes, Chair. I think you should also notice that there are members of various town councils, and parish councils here as well.
Thank you. As noted.
And we have discussed some of the items which are on the agenda.
Okay, moving on, item 7, announcements. There are no further announcements other than what we said earlier. Agenda item 8, members' questions on notice. There are no questions on notice this evening. Okay, agenda items 9 and 11A. We'll do 11A first because that is to note. So agenda item 11A is to note the decision made by the acting chief executive to appoint an interim monitoring officer. So I'm just going to call on Margaret to explain why that occurred. Thank you.
The previous acting chief executive, Philip Spurs, made a decision that because we had Elizabeth Heath leaving as the monitoring officer, she was on annual leave, so we required an interim monitoring officer for 2 of the meetings, for one for PNR and one for today's meeting. And that's what the urgency decision was about, to make sure that we met our statutory duty on that.
Thank you very much. So that's to note, and item 11. So agenda item 9, and I would just like to say hello on behalf of myself and the council, because I didn't get a chance to see Bernice Elgott, who has joined us now for this meeting. And I'm going to hand this over to Councillor Dykeel, who's going to act in terms of introducing Bernice to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for introducing Bernice. I think a few of us met her, but everybody else, she's here on screen this evening. So the that stopped now. I think so. Yeah. Okay. So you have the report in front of you. The recommendation is a proposal that Bernice Elgott is appointed as the
Hello. Sorry, apologies for the feedback. Just to say good evening to everyone and hello.
Duncan.
Yeah, thank you. It's actually not a question on this. It's just that it appears that Bernice has actually dialed in twice, and I think that's the reason why we've got the problems that we've got with the feedback. There's 2 Benices on the screen.
Thank you. It's obviously value for money. That's why. Thank you. I don't know whether you would like just to say something, Bernice, just so we can check that we've got the problem sorted.
I think that's better. Can you all hear me now?
That's brilliant. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor
that's,
Duncan.
That's fine. I think thank you for the technical tip. And apologies, because of course I've come to the council late and on a sort of semi-urgent basis. I could only do this by the dreaded Teams, and so I did want to apologise for not actually being there tonight. But from Monday, I will be devoted full-time, or more or less full-time, to Rydale. So I just want to say hello. Good evening to everyone, and obviously encourage anyone who's got questions, problems, hopefully no difficulties, but anything they want to contact me about, to contact me after Monday, and we'll sort everything else out from then, in person if at all possible. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Oxley.
Sorry, Chair. I just wondered who the monitoring officer was at this moment in time, given that it's not the beginning of March. Are we without a monitoring officer for tonight's meeting?
No, we're not, Councillor Oxley, as we just did the urgency powers decision that's already been made. Bernice is the monitoring officer for this meeting and for policy and resources the week before last. So we had to do it as an urgency decision because we needed a monitoring officer. So this is just to, but we can't have two monitoring officers, as it were. And Elizabeth is still in post, although on leave at the moment. So Bernice becomes a monitoring officer for us till the end of the council from the 6th of March.
Thank you for that question. Any other questions? Okay. Could we have the recommendation moved then, please? Thank you.
To move the recommendation on page 19.
Happy to second that.
Thank you.
Was that Councillor Burr?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Does anyone wish to speak in favour or against the motion? No, thank you. Okay, I think we'll move into voting then, please, as the motion's been moved and seconded. We'll put that to the vote. So if you'd like to vote now, thank you.
Chair, that's unanimous.
Thank you very much, and formally welcome then, Bernice.
Thank you. I'll turn my camera off now so you don't have to look at me throughout the whole thing. I just thought it might be a good idea to show my face for the first few minutes. Just also to say that if you want to contact me by email, it's absolutely the usual. First name dot second name and then at rydale.gov.uk. So that's all set up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll turn my camera off now. Thank you.
Agenda item 10, to consider for approval the recommendations in respect of the following Part B committee items. We have agenda item 10A, which was going to be presented by Councillor Cleary. I don't know how we'll overcome that on this evening. Has anybody been seconded in his position? Councillor Potter.
Well, I'm the vice chair of the licensing committee and I was present at that one, so a bit unexpected, but I expect I can manage it.
That's great. Thank you very much. If you'd like to move us into that then, Councillor Potter, thank you.
Right, thank you. Yes, this is a review of the council's statement of principles on gambling. with the recommendation to council that members agree to the adoption of the revised statement of principles for gambling 2023 to 26. And I can merely confirm that it was voted by general affirmation at P&R, at the licensing committee meeting, and there were very few changes to the previous statement of principles, and what there were very minor changes. So I would suggest that I will move the recommendation.
Thank you very much. Is that seconded? Councillor Mackenzie, thank you. Okay, does anyone wish to speak in favour or against the motion or propose an amendment? No? Thank you very much. I believe the motion has been sufficiently voiced. So if there's no other questions, we'll move straight into the vote, please. Thank you.
Chair, excuse me, that's unanimous.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 10B, revenue and capital budget for Q3. This is on pages 61 to 72, and Councillor Keel is going to introduce this.
Thank you, Chair. Our revenue budget for 22-23 was approved by Council on the 17th of February last year. And this report and its associated appendices present the current financial performance against the budget as of the 31st of December. So it is recommended from P&R that Council note the financial position as set out in the paper, and that any over or underspend in revenue or capital will have an impact on reserves. Happy to take questions. Thank you.
Any questions? Councillor Duncan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a question. The budget monitoring report refers to a staffing overspend in the last quarter of £166,000. I fear this overspend will only grow in the next quarter once the added burden of the £150 thank you payment to staff is accounted for. You approved this bonus payment, Councillor Keel, to be paid to all employees for, quote, going above and beyond. In a staff email, you state that several council employees have, and again I quote, expressed concerns about the cost of living crisis. You say the payment will assist employees with the rise in utility bills and associated financial pressures. Can you please explain why you believe a £150 payment to assist with cost of living should be paid to the Chief Executive of the Council, who earns £110,000 per annum?
Yes, thank you for your question, Councillor Duncan. I stand by that decision. In actual fact, I would have prepared to pay our hardworking staff more than that, but that was a figure that I agreed after some discussion. There were caveats on that. There were some staff that are on temporary contracts and people who are actually left out are employed before the end of Rydell. But it's interesting that you feel this is not a good move. I've actually had some thank yous from members of staff who are really appreciating that payment, because we are all feeling the benefit, the impact of the cost of living crisis at the moment. I understand what you're saying about the Chief Executive, but it is nevertheless true that Stacey will still be in our employ on the 31st of March. I think it would have been grossly unfair to have said we will take certain members of staff out of this this process because they earn more than others. But that's my position on it.
Councillor Duncan.
Thank you. Supplementary then question to Councillor Keel. So you don't agree that it is wrong for the taxpayers of Rydale who earn on average a salary of just under £30,000 to be forced to support the living costs of our most senior employee earning £110,000, almost 4 times the average resident?
Where would you have liked me to have stopped on this, Councillor Duncan? Obviously, other senior members of staff also substantially more than others. But I do not think it would be reasonable for us to select certain people who would receive this payment. It's a cost of living payment. It's a small amount. It is in recognition of the huge amount of work that a lot of our staff, our hardworking teams have done, particularly in the run-up to LGR. And you know, I was not in a position, and I had no intention of picking and choosing. As I've said, there were caveats in it, and people that were on temporary contracts or contractors to this council were excluded from it, and people that had left before the end of Rydale's existence. But I just feel it would not be acceptable for us to go through and pick and choose who we were going to make this payment to. I'm sure the vast majority of staff will understand and accept that. And I would hope members would as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Clark.
More of a statement, in fact, 2 statements. Firstly, I'd like to say that I agree that a flat rate payment to staff is probably a good and fair way of doing it, and I wouldn't single out any individual members of staff to not receive that above any others. But going on to the document that we've got in front of us, paragraph 5.5, we've got a table on the bottom of page 66. I think this is just something to draw the members of the public's attention to rather than anything else. The cost of electricity and gas over the next year that we're budgeting for here, we're budgeting for an increase of 38% increase in the cost of electricity and a 53% increase in the cost of gas. And we're also budgeting a contingency for additional inflation risk of 50% on top of that. Potentially that's going to double a lot of people's energy costs. I mean, as a council, that's what we're saying we could end up having. And I think it's just worth noting for members of the public that are listening to this that we're expecting things to get expensive over the next year compared with what they are now. I mean, it's worth noting that it may go down, and if we look back a year ago before the Russian invasion of Ukraine, we probably wouldn't have said that there was likely to be a massive increase. And who knows what's going to happen by this time next year. But I think it's worth drawing people's attention to the fact that that's where we think things could be heading. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you very much. So if Councillor Keel would like to move the recommendation.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I'll move the recommendation on page 63. Thank you. I hope I've got a seconder for that.
Thank you. And a seconder, please. Councillor Burr. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you'd like to make your speech, Councillor Keel.
I mean, I don't actually really want to say a huge amount more about this. The facts and figures are in front of you. And I think the one thing I would say is that I think Rydale is in a very good financial position. Obviously, there has been slippage in some of our capital, which is a concern going forward. But through the good management of our 151 officer, I think we are in a good position as a council. There have been extra costs that we couldn't have assumed, like the LGR costs, but in actual fact, they are under what we predicted they might have been. So that will make a difference to our bottom line. But yeah, other than that, I just recommend it to council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody wish to speak in favour or against the motion or move an amendment? Councillor Duncan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't wish to move an amendment, but I just want to say in terms of the budget monitoring report, Councillor Keel said that we're in a very good financial position. I think that's an interesting statement to make when we have a £2 million deficit and growing, which equates to a quarter of this council's revenue budget. That is the position that the new North Yorkshire Council is going to inherit, and the position that the new North Yorkshire Council is going to have to deal with on behalf of the residents which the new council will serve, which are the residents which we serve here at Rydale District Council. You mentioned the good management by the Section 151 officer. I would not disagree with that statement. What I would say, however, is that there has not been good management by the elected councillors, or the majority of elected councillors, on this council. I believe there has been bad decisions, spiralling costs, and the cumulative impact of the decisions that we have made have led us to what I would describe as a very poor financial situation.
Thank you very much. Anybody like to make a comment? No? Okay, so we've heard the recommendation. We've had it seconded, so I believe the motion has been sufficiently debated. So we'll move to the vote, please. Thank you.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 10C, and I know this has been heavily discussed and debated at PNR, so I hopefully won't find that we're going to lengthy debate over this, but obviously there will be things to note and discuss. So this is the delivery of the council plan for Q2, and again I'd like to ask Councillor Keel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, as the recommendation you have in front of you is that this should be noted. Note the purpose of the report. What I would like to say about it is that this is another excellent report, and it is showing that all our key performance indicators are moving in the right direction. The number of progress areas that are performing well, we have at 87%, that are either achieving or exceeding targets, and the other areas are well within the acceptable levels and looking likely to become green category by Q3. So that's all I would like to say at this stage, and that I'd like to recommend we note the progress report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Councillor Keel? No, thank you. So Councillor Keel, Councillor Clark.
Again, it's just as a little statement in the same as I did with the last item. At the bottom of page 82 on our document, we've got a number of cases of homelessness being prevented, which is the council has done, and that's gone from 33 cases in the last quarter to 39 in this quarter. We are noticing a quarter-on-quarter gradual increase in this, and I think that's something that's again just worth us as a council and people just noting rather than anything. I mean, I don't know that there's much that we can necessarily do about that at the moment, but you know, we need to be aware that the cost of living is certainly going to be adding to that.
Thank you very much. So Councillor Keel has made the recommendation. Have we got a seconder for this, please? Councillor Clark, thank you. Okay, Councillor Keel, if you'd like to make your speech.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I think there's nothing I want to say. I think the report explains it all extremely well. I think one thing I would like to do is pay tribute to the staff teams who have continued to show exceptional performance. despite the considerable upheaval caused by local government reorganisation. This, in the time that I've been chairing Policy and Resources, those indicators have gone up, and we have cleared some of the ones that were not performing so well in the past. And so at the sort of coming towards the end of this council, that's very reassuring to see that we are passing on such good quality work and exceptional, performance really. I think there are two indicators that that within tolerance, but they're not performing at absolutely the top of their game, are worth just a quick mention. It is explained in the report, but the first was a continued reduction in Rycare customers. So some work has been done to investigate that, and because there was a concern, Councillor Clark has mentioned a couple of times the cost of living crisis. There was a concern that people weren't signing up because of the cost of living, but it appears from the investigations that have been done that that's actually just about a natural turnover of customers rather than the cost of living crisis. And work on the other one, which was the concerns around empty homes, that indicator is still being looked at. The team are doing more of a deep dive into that, and we'll be able to that will lead to a better analysis of the empty homes within Ryde. But that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody wish to speak in favour or against the amendment of the motion? No, thank you very much. We'll move to the vote, please. Thank you.
Chair, that's unanimous.
Thank you. Item 10D, the annual report. This is for Ryde District Council annual report. It's on pages 95 to 152. And again, I'd like to ask Councillor Keel when she's ready to introduce this. Thank you.
So this report is the annual report which highlights the key achievements of the council over the last financial year 21-22 in relation to the council plan. The recommendation to council is to approve for publication the annual report, the progress against the council plan, subject to any changes agreed. I will make further comment on the report itself after it's been moved and seconded. Thank you. Happy to move it from the chair, from here.
Thank
Move
you.
it.
Any questions for Councillor Keel? Okay, thank you. So Councillor Keel has made the recommendation. Is this seconded? Councillor Burr? Does anyone wish to speak in favour or against the motion? Councillor Joy Andrews.
Hi, yeah, it's just a note. Presumably this hasn't gone to print yet as such, you just waited, and there will be spelling checks. It's just page 151, although it's the Councillor John Clark, it's Policy and Resources, not Police and Resources. Well, not that, I mean, he was involved in a lot of things though, so.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Can that be noted for change, please?
That's noted. Councillor Potter.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just another very minor change. On page 138, I did point this out at Policy and Resources. At the top, it says Ryedale District Council's elected members declared a climate emergency in 2019, which led to the creation of the Council's Climate Change Action Plan. In reality, I hope that gets changed around because it was actually the other way around, because the plan or the action plan is the important bit, because it's no good declaring a climate emergency without doing something about it and having a plan to do so. Thank you.
Could I just inquire if that was the way it should have been, Councillor Potter?
Yeah, the reality was, I think it was at the April meeting in whatever year it was, 2019, where the plan was approved after it had been put together over the previous, probably about 18 months through the scrutiny committee. It was quite an extensive piece of work. So that was approved at full council. And then we moved to the new council in the May, and then the climate emergency was announced. So it's literally just the about phase.
Okay, thank you. We'll look into that then, obviously.
I think that was noted at Policy
Oh,
Resources.
right,
Though,
that's
that
brilliant.
should be amended.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. We've had a second, haven't we? Yeah, thank you. So would you like to speak about your motion? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll be brief. We did have a good long discussion about this at Policy and Resources. I think it's an excellent report. It, in a very clear and relatively simple way and design, it does illustrate the amount of good work that this council has done during that last year. I think I said this last year as well, but the fact that we have case studies in there, they're an excellent illustration of the sort of work and the sort of projects that we have delivered. And I think they actually really well illustrates why this council is an award-winning council and has won various awards during the year for the continued good work it does. So I commend it to council. I think it's an excellent annual report and we need to get it out there as soon as. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we've, oh, sorry. Councillor Mason.
Yeah, I missed this at the beginning. I need to declare an interest in this because personal interest because the company's mentioned in it, but it's not pecuniary because it's not talking about anything directly.
That is noted. Thank you very much. Okay. Any other comments before we go to vote? Would you like to say anything? Okay, thank you. We'll move to the vote then. Thank you.
Chair, that's unanimous.
Thank you. Agenda item 10E, the Rydal District Council Local Development Scheme, November 2022 to March 23. This is on pages 153 to 184. And this is Councillor Keel again. When you're ready, Di, that's fine. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So the council has recommended to agree the local development scheme for use and publishing. I will say more about it once we've moved and seconded it.
Thank you. Any questions for Councillor Keel? Okay, thank you. If you'd like to move the recommendation, thank you.
Okay, so the recommendation is to agree the local development scheme for use and publishing, and I'll move that. If I could have a seconder, please.
Councillor Burr.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Councillor Burr. So this has come about really because of the situation that we found ourselves in with our local plan review. As members will be aware, we got to the period in time when we needed to do a review of our local plan, and we had hoped to do a sort of 5-year roll-on and just do a 5-year review. But we had to take advice on that, and the legal advice suggested that we couldn't actually do that. So the review has to be a full 15-year review, but as we're all aware, Rydal won't be here for the next 15 years or 10 years. So so the decision has been made to carry on working on that review, but with the acceptance and the knowledge that the work that we are currently doing to keep the plan up to date will eventually be subsumed into the new North Yorkshire plan. But obviously, once the new council is established, that will take some time to develop. So we're really caught with this one. We had no choice. We would have rather have done a shorter review, but we can't. So we're just in a position that we actually have to really accept this development scheme as it is, but with the rider that our officers will be continuing to work on it until such time as it becomes part of the North Yorkshire plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody wish to speak in favour or against the motion? Councillor Goodrick.
Thank you, Chairman. To say, first of all, to thank the staff who've worked tirelessly to try and bring this about. I think they've done an inordinate amount of work, and I'd like to put on record my thanks to them for that service that they've given to the residents. I do have some significant concerns now. This plan is only useful to 2027, and it's my belief that we are now exposed, that people like Gladman's will recognise that exposure, and we have now opened up the district to planning by appeal, the very thing I sought to avoid.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Potter.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, there is no doubt we got caught between a rock and a hard place in this, and it is simply the fact that the timing of it was unfortunate when local government reform was announced, because it cut straight across, and it is literally just a matter of timing. Now, as far as I'm concerned, the work, and as Caroline said, there's a huge amount of work been done by both members and officers on this, going back a year or so, or perhaps longer than that. And I think it is beholden on the new council to ensure that the funding and the manpower continues in the same way, so that this plan continues. It would be a particularly stupid thing to do to not continue in that way. And if that happened, that's exactly as Councillor Goodrick has said, what would happen. Now, the local plan review has to happen. So really all it involves is providing those funds, and those people involved already are allowed to continue. Then that's exactly what will happen. It'll continue until it reaches the point where it goes to examination in public, and then I would rather hope that it will be approved, because all the necessary consultation and so on has been done. So in theory, it won't leave us wide open, because we have done everything that we need to do, and it's within the gift of North Yorkshire Council to ensure that it continues. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other offerings? No. Okay, I think we'll move to the vote then, please. Thank you.
Chair, that's 18 votes for and 1 abstention.
Thank you very much. Item 10F. This is the affordable housing for North Yorkshire Council, pages 185 to 196. And Councillor Keele.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This report came to Policy and Resources at the request of Councillor Potter, who requested that recommendations were made to the meeting of Policy and Resources to give Ryde District Council members the opportunity to present a proposal to the new council regarding the delivery of affordable housing and extra care schemes. So the recommendation is in front of you on page 165. referring to the upper deck of Wentworth Street car park and the Rydal District Council owns site shown on the attached plan, which you have, I believe. Be submitted to Rydal District Council's local plan review by Rydal officers as a site for 100% affordable housing and or an extra care facility. That Rydal District Council requests that the new North Yorkshire Council agree to the officers negotiating the purchase of the privately owned site marked on the plan coloured pink as part of the site for affordable house, 100% affordable housing and or an extra care facility, as in one, and the whole of the Rydal House site in an existing allocation in the adopted development plan with a principle of residential use of the site, which has already been assessed as acceptable. It's proposed that this allocation be resubmitted by Rydal District Council officers as a site for 100% affordable housing and or an extra care facility. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Duncan.
Just to ask, in terms of the status of this request, if it is passed, what does this actually mean in reality? So if we pass this today, what standing does this have other than simply a request on a piece of paper?
I think it gives the authority for our officer to do more work on this proposal, and although we can't change the plan, we can make these recommendations to go into the plan for the new, which will be taken forward by the new authority. So it's basically I'm sure Councillor Potter will correct me if I'm incorrect, but it's us as a council wanting to designate these sites for those specific purposes.
Councillor Paul Andrews.
Yeah, yes, Chair. We're talking about allocating new land for new housing, Councillor Keele. Are you aware that both Moulton and Norton Town Council have within the last 2 weeks submitted representations on the local plan review to the officers, making it quite clear that there is no room for any more land allocations in Moulton and Norton, and that those decisions were unanimous.
I'm aware that Moulton Town Council have done that. I actually wasn't at Norton Town Council on Monday, so I'm not aware of that from Norton Town Council, but perhaps perhaps others who were present could clarify that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Burr.
Yes, this is if this is passed tonight, this is going to the new authority. Who do you expect would be the portfolio holder who would run with this and probably put this forward and champion this? Who is going to be the lead on this? Because it's got no substance, but I'm just wondering who you think that is going to take this up.
I'm afraid I can't answer that question. I'll have to give you a written reply afterwards, Councillor Burr, because I don't know who the portfolio holder is for housing and extra care facilities.
Thank you. Councillor Oxley.
Yeah, just on my own sanity, peace of mind, really. It seems to me that what we're actually saying is if we pass this tonight, it will go forward as no more than a request, but this is what Rydal District Council would like you to do. Is that fact?
Yes, effectively, yes. Yeah.
Councillor Goodrick.
Just wondered if the Chair of Policy and Resources could confirm whether she thinks this will fetter the new council.
I don't think it will fetter the new council because it will be their decision ultimately. But my understanding is that I know this council's it covers up some of our priorities, which is the need for affordable housing and extra care facilities. There is definitely a shortage of those, and my understanding is that that is one of the priorities of the new council as well.
Thank you. Just want to interrupt. We've got Rachel online who has kindly said she could answer one of the questions for us. So I'd like to introduce Rachel, please.
Good evening, members.
Hi, thank you. It's all yours.
Sorry, which question were you actually wanting me to respond to?
Oh, beg your pardon. Right. Bernice had mentioned that you're here to answer some questions. So, I think
Rachel, I was going to suggest that you might be able to say who the portfolio holder was. That's all.
Thank you.
So just name names. Name names was what I was going to suggest. So really not a long question.
In terms of the sort of planning policy and housing and economic development, I believe it's Councillor Myers. He's the portfolio holder. We have in post appointed the assistant director, who is Trevor Watson, and so those I think are sort of two of the key people who would be involved in sort of shaping this up at a very senior level. So I think that's, you know, in answer to that question, yes, they would be key parties.
Thank you very much. Don't go far, Rachel. That'd be good if you could just stay there. That's good. Councillor Burr.
Yes, thank you. As ward member for Malton, it came quite a shock to me that it was presented at P&R, and I was just wondering who you actually negotiated with, i.e. other councillors, and have you spoken to Councillor Myers about him probably pursuing this for us? It all came very quickly to us, and it just seems as though it's quite rushed, and I just wondered how many members of our council, I know there aren't many here this evening, but I just wondered how many maybe by email that you'd contacted, so that it would be a representation of this council rather than a few members.
As I said at the start, Councillor Burr, this proposal was put by Councillor Potter, so I'm not sure whether he has done that work. It was discussed by members at Policy and Resources, but I think probably people are aware there were very few members there at Policy and Resources to hear this proposal. And obviously it's now come to this evening, so other members can offer their views this evening. No, I've not spoken to the portfolio holder at North Yorkshire, because I don't think that is my role in this process. I do appreciate that this has come very late in the day to council, but I think the intention behind it is excellent, because we all know this area has a shortage of affordable housing, and it most certainly has a shortage of extra care facilities for our growing ageing population.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Andrews.
Yes, Councillor. Am I correct that that the strategic housing land assessment hasn't been revised and looked at since 2013? And in those circumstances, I'm wondering how we can be sure that what the need is for social housing, how many houses are required and where they're required. Why, for example, are we talking about Malton and Norton? Why not Pickering or Kirby Moorside even? Or even Helmsley? Why does it have to be Malton and Norton?
I don't think it does have to be in Malton and Norton, and probably you may be aware, Councillor Andrews, that some affordable housing was recently opened in Kirby Moorside. I think the reason this has come forward is because these pockets of land have been identified as being put to good use in this respect. I can't respond to the when the strategic housing assessment was last reviewed, but I'm hoping Rachel will be able to.
Chair,
sorry, Councillor Andrews. Excuse me, can we just ask Rachel just to come in to answer that one, then we'll come back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so the Strategic Housing Land Availability Assessment is a document that is essentially in two parts, and it's updated on an annual basis to give the council and interested stakeholders a position with regards to the land supply. What it also does is it sets out land that is known to the local planning authority. It's referenced in the report before you because obviously Rydale House is actually an allocation in our adopted development plan, but for the past 2 years we have not included it within the Strategic Housing Land Availability Assessment as a deliverable site, because we've had no indication that this site would be coming forward for development purposes. We are updating the second part of the Strategic Housing Land Availability Assessment with all the site submissions that we have received as part of the review of the Rydale plan. They have no planning policy status. It's just that we have to identify effectively land to which there's an interest in having developed, and it allows the authority to indicate what land it knows to be available for certain forms of development. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Councillor Andrews, would you like to come back with your supplementary? Thank you.
I think Rachel's answered the question, Chair. We've been told that it has not been identified as a site, and as my recollection is that this council specifically said they didn't want it to be identified as a site for allocation of housing because of the officers.
Thank you, Councillor Potter.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'd just like to clarify a couple of things in answer to some of the questions. Firstly, can I make sure that everybody is looking at the recommendation on page 185, which quite clearly says, number 1, the upper deck of Wentworth Street car park and the RDC owned site on the attached plan coloured green be submitted to Rydale District Council's local plan review by RDC officers as a site for 100% affordable housing, etc. And part 3 says similarly, the whole Rydale House site be submitted by RDC officers. This isn't about sending it to North Yorkshire Council. It is to be done by RDC officers. And if you would like to look at page 192, paragraph 6.12, it says the local planning authority cannot decline to accept site submissions. And on the basis that this is Rydale District Council land, we are the owners, we are the sovereign authority, then we have every right to submit this to the local plan, as far as I'm concerned. If we go back to part 2 on the recommendation, it says that RDC requests that the new North Yorkshire Council agree to officers negotiating the purchase of a privately owned site marked on the attached plan coloured pink. That was on the basis that we're too far down the line for the negotiations to happen on behalf by Rydale District Council, and therefore it is a request for the new council to do that for us. So that part is for the North Yorkshire Council. That's entirely up to them and would be their decision. The rest of it, we are the sovereign authority talking about our land. Do we want to put these into the local plan for affordable housing? With regard to the fact that it's in Malton and Norton, that is completely irrelevant. It's just the fact that these sites are available, owned by the council, and we are in absolutely desperate need of affordable housing. I'll just add to that the fact that I was at the opening of the Kirby Moorside development of 7 affordable houses. There were 200 applications for those houses. At the same time, by the same developer, there were 400 applications for 1 affordable house in Cornwall. I appreciate that that is not in Rydale, but that will hopefully give you some indication of whether there is demand for affordable housing. And just to add to that, if anybody is sitting here thinking council estate or council houses, we are talking about affordable housing of every sort of tenure, and this involves people who earn under £80,000 per annum. £80,000, whether that's singly or as a household. We're talking about people with a significant income who otherwise cannot afford allegedly affordable housing. They can't afford market housing. This is about providing a need for Rydale residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Just remind you, we're still in questions. Councillor Rain.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sure everybody here does know what Councillor Potter said about the need for affordable housing without any question or care facilities in this area. But I'm not sure who I should be asking and if anyone can answer. I'm not against affordable housing or anything. I'm absolutely for it. But what worries me vastly is, together with the decision for the places on the maps here, are there going to be, what other facilities are going to go with these affordable housing or care homes? Because no one can deny that Malton is, in a position traffic wise and, that side of things. The schools are at full capacity. The surgery is unbelievable. You can't get an appointment. So if you're going to have all these houses, which I totally agree with, somewhere in Rydale, who can tell me what's going to go along with that? Because you can't just keep building houses continuously without extra facilities in the area. Can anybody answer? Thank you.
I think all I can say in that respect is that that's the sort of detail that would need to be worked up at a later stage in the process. I do understand what you're saying, Councillor Rain, but I think that's the detail that comes at a later stage. I think the other thing that has been raised quite a few times, well, actually, no, I'll keep this for the debate. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? No, thank you. Right. So, Councillor Keele, if you'd like to move your recommendation, and we'll have it seconded.
Yes, I'd like to move the recommendation on page 185, and I hope I've got a seconder. Thank you.
Councillor Burt, thank you. Okay, Councillor Keele, if you'd like to move your speech, thank you.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I think quite a lot has already been said, and I think I did say some of this in what I initially said about the recommendation. I think there is. I do appreciate what people are saying about traffic concerns, but I think there is a real need in Rydale for more affordable housing. So I think this is a very sensible proposal to get this included into our plan at this stage. And I think, I think that's all I need to say at the moment. I will add more later. Thank you.
Councillor Burr.
Thank you, Chairman. As I said, this came quite late to P&R and I was quite shocked to read it. However, that's fine. If it wanted to be presented that way, that's absolutely fine by me. Now, there's nobody here that doesn't, in this room, that does not want affordable housing. Affordable housing is needed, it's wanted, but it's wanted throughout Rydale, absolutely throughout Rydale. It's something that we need to plan strategically and make sure that all our facilities and infrastructure is there in place, etc., etc. I'm concerned that we are wanting the new authority to take this up. I think it's the new authority will have its own planning committees and etc., etc. And I don't think that we should be pushing this onto the new authority. I am concerned that it's just Malton and it would have been helpful if probably we'd have had more sites to consider and looked at some of our land. That would have been more appropriate. I'm not aware that Malton Town Council were consulted, and I know the residents weren't consulted, and they don't really know anything about this. A couple of people I've been asking in Old Malton are absolutely horrified because the traffic is through that little village is appalling, and it's something that we just can't take any more cars and traffic, etc., etc. So I think that we all have great sympathy for this, and we all want affordable housing. It needs to be spread throughout Rydale. And I think that maybe if this had have been put in a different way, then probably it could have got support from the council. Malton has taken on many housing, and Norton is going to take on many, many more. And we do accept that. We accept that, and we know that this is going to happen. But I think that this has just come too late in the day. It's been a tag on. It's not a sound proposal. And unfortunately, I won't be supporting this report to go to North Yorks. Yeah, I did second it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Potter.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It might be of interest that the projected yield for this Wentworth Street car park is 23, and if the Rydale House site comes forward, it will be 60. So that's 83 in total. Across Malton and Norton, there are currently 34 sites with a cumulative yield of 4,824 houses that have been submitted to the local plan that's just on the way going through. So that will give you some indication of what sort of impact this would have. Paragraph 4.1 says that the most significant risk is that North Yorkshire Council decline to progress such proposals. So why wait and take that significant risk when Rydale District Council are the landowner and currently the sovereign authority? When North Yorkshire Council take ownership and become the sovereign authority, it'll be within their gift to reverse any such democratic decision of this council, but then they'd also have to justify the reason, given they too have stated their commitment to affordable housing and the significant need for it. As an existing affordable housing provider, I'm assured that funding would be available from Homes England with minimal officer time and effort. Feasibility studies and plans for affordable housing on Wentworth Street car park have already been completed and paid for, so it's not exactly that late to the party. What a pity to waste all that public expenditure. There are currently no sites identified for just affordable housing in Rydale beyond those already in the pipeline. And as far as I'm aware, there aren't sites available in Pickering, Kirby Moorside and all the rest of it. So this is nothing to do with just Malton and Norton. It's providing affordable housing in the right sort of place where there are transport links, shops, etc. Rydale House has been allocated in the local plan for years and accepted by a planning inspector despite not being declared redundant. Would there really be a problem with a changed allocation for a partially used, appallingly energy inefficient building with new owners, no doubt looking to rationalise their estate because they have quite a massive deficit in their funding and would possibly look to sell it to the highest bidder? So there is a desperate need for affordable housing. We own suitable land. We have the ability and the authority to leave a legacy to our district before Rydale disappears into Greater North Yorkshire.
3 minutes,
Do we
Councillor.
want to take that opportunity or don't we? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Andrews.
Chair, this is premature. We a number of things are required before any consideration of the site should ever, of either of these sites should ever take place. First of all, there should be a strategic highways assessment, a revision of that. And we know how bad highways are in Moulton. I think we need to look at the land allocations and the criteria for allocating land. And I think I think it's got to go through an entirely separate process. This is premature. Moulton and Norton town councils have unanimously, and I repeat the word unanimously, made it very clear that they do not want to require any more housing development to be allocated in Moulton and Norton unless there is substantial infrastructure improvements. And I mean by substantial infrastructure improvements, I mean things like a new interchange at Broughton Road and at Muesli Bank. Now, just to give members an idea of the situation that faces us, the Rydale plan indicated that over the 15 years period of the plan, there should be 1,500 new houses in Moulton and Norton. The consultation document that went out from this council a few weeks ago made it clear that during the period of 2012 to date, 1,200 houses had already been built. That's in the first 2/3 periods of the plan. On top of that, there are 672 houses which are going to be due from the Beverley Road estate. All agreed, I know, but we're now talking about 400 houses in excess of the 1,500 that were in the Rydale plan. And now we're saying, well, it's only 83 houses. Let's dump them on Moulton and Norton. We have a social housing problem. Well, where should we put it? Oh, give it to Moulton and Norton. Well, Moulton and Norton have been told repeatedly. We've been told at Councillor Potter's working party repeatedly that affordable housing is not part of the consideration that we were to have in the local plans working party. It's been ruled out on every single occasion. And here we are, we're talking about it. We've been taken by surprise. Chair, this is premature. North Yorkshire Council will no doubt
3 minutes, Councillor.
Will no doubt consider all the possibilities. They'll consider all the land that this council owns, and they will make a decision. It is not for us to try and tell them beforehand that we should further overload our two main towns. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Just before I ask somebody else to come in that wants to speak, can I just ask a question, maybe of Mr. Potter, Councillor Potter, about where the sort of main focus of people are living that need the affordable housing is? Are there any statistics on that? Because I'm just aware that we think that everybody's going to move into these areas where presumably they could already be living by some other means. It's not as if we're attracting them into this area or to Pickering or to Kirkby. They're in the locality as it is.
Not too sure that I can give you the exact figures or any evidence for that, but as far as I'm aware, those 200 applicants for the Kirkby Moorside properties all came from within the district, and they were virtually all professional people. There was a nurse, there was a prison officer. So there was talk there of social housing. I've already said this isn't about council estates and purely social housing. Some of it could be social rent, some of it could be partial ownership, but it is affordable housing. And so what it means is that anybody who isn't fortunate enough to have the bank of mum and dad and is probably under 40 and hasn't managed to get onto the housing ladder, this is housing for them. And this is simply a case of they cannot afford market housing, so they need some sort of leg up onto the system. So this is the affordable housing for them. And the fact that it's both sites are right in the middle of Malton and Norton is key, insofar as you've got the transport infrastructure with buses, rail, road, shops, so it doesn't need people to be travelling long distances. But I mean, we've had to put affordable housing where we possibly could, including a fairly large development at a Motherby, which was far less suitable simply because of the travelling distances. But it needs to be remembered that this is for people with an income of less than £80,000 who just cannot otherwise get on the housing ladder. So the chances are they've got cars and so on, but they wouldn't necessarily need them. Okay.
Thank you very much. Councillor Middleton.
Yeah, I'd just like to disagree with some of the things that have been said. I don't believe it's premature. Since I've been on this council for 4 years, we've been banging on about providing further affordable housing. We've also been going on about what to do with the Wentworth Street car park and what to do with Rydale District Council land once you know, moving forwards. As it being Malton and Norton, people want to live where they can access jobs, transport. And I'm aware that obviously the traffic is bad, but I'm not sure if some of the other councillors have ever been out of Malton and Norton to see just how much better the traffic is here than in other areas. Properties will get built, towns will grow bigger. It's not what we all want, but with an ageing population and an increasing population, we do need to further housing. I will be supporting this one.
Thank you. Councillor Duncan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't think anyone has any doubt about the need for affordable homes, so I don't think that should even really enter the debate. What I do find, however, is this proposal to be slightly strange in how it's come forward, and I also think potentially dangerous in the messaging that it might send. I find it strange that these particular sites have been picked. This has been presented in this way with a full report. It is Councillor Potter's right to request that report. I've tried to exercise it myself. My request thought that was rejected, but he's been successful in using his right to get this on the agenda. So I suppose well done to him for that. What I would just like to talk about is the two sites that have been proposed. So first of all, talking about Wentworth Street car park, I think some members in this room have forgotten what we discussed at the December meeting, the extraordinary meeting, which was a proposal to protect Wentworth Street car park by selling it to the Fitzwilliam estate at a price solely for to be protected for car parking. Some of the same people who voted at that December meeting to sell the car park to protect it for car parking are now proposing that we should build affordable homes and an extra care facility on there. Councillor Potter is one of those individuals who voted for that proposal then and is now putting forward something very radically different at this meeting. I find that to be quite confusing. In terms of the Rydale House site, I think it does send the wrong message to be talking right now at this particularly sensitive period of time about knocking this building down where we are today, which is a hub not only for our staff, but also the home of the North Yorkshire Police Community Team and also the Job Centre. There is lots of questions about the new North Yorkshire Council, how it's going to work. The reassuring messages that we've been trying to send is that this building will be here, staff will be here to serve residents and be accessible to provide help. To talk now about knocking this building down and building anything on here is not the right time, and I think is a dangerous thing to do. We have not consulted any of those partners. We have no plan for this building right now, and I find this to be premature. In terms of generally talking about the need for housing, we haven't looked at housing need. We haven't looked at best value for these assets, not necessarily financial best value, but best value in all senses. We haven't considered all sites, not just council assets, but non-council assets and other parcels of land. What consultation has happened? It sounds like none. This seems to be speculation. We have no mandate to be making these decisions. We should not be embarking on any work at any cost, at any staffing capacity right now and making last minute ill thought out proposals if the new North Yorkshire Council has any sense, it will ignore this request if it does succeed. But my view is, why should we even request it? Why, as an elected council, even one with no mandate, as I feel we do have no mandate on this, why would we even say this right now? To set hairs running, to raise concern and speculation, to pointlessly meddle 36 days from the abolition of this council. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Joy Andrews.
Thank you. I don't think there was any malice in this at all, or any thoughts of stirring up a hornet's nest. To be honest, I thought this would be welcomed. I mean, if there was something, if Rydale District Council owned some land in Pickering, I'd be over the moon to be putting this forward, because there's nothing in here that says if we approve this, bricks are going to go down tomorrow. It's not a planning application. It's just purely to wave a flag that it's here. This site as well, I believe, is in the local plan anyway. That's nothing new. We're not it's not going to be taken down tomorrow. It's just that it's here for that, and that's what we just wanted to wave a flag for, to say that there is the top deck of Wentworth Street car park, and I think it's not something new. I believe the late John Clark mentioned this several times about an extra care facility or affordable housing. I think he possibly went one further and said social housing on that site. So this isn't something that's just been pulled out of a hat at the last minute. And as we all know, there is a need. And I'm just sorry that we haven't got anything in Pickering that Rydale owned that we could put in this as well. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Potter.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This is just a point of personal reply. A couple of points. In terms of, can I just remind everyone that this is about a local plan submission? What we are talking about is just putting this into the local plan. It would then have to be assessed the same as every other submission to the local plan. Particularly with regard to Rydale House, Councillor Duncan was talking as though I was trying to close down Rydale House. It's not the case. If there's a requirement for Rydale House, it will continue to be so. This site has been in the local plan for several years so far without any problem, and I think it should continue to be so on the chance that North Yorkshire Council decide that they no longer want this building. In terms of the Wentworth Street car park, yes, I did vote to sell the car park to Fitzwilliam Malton Estate. Sadly, I have to say, that was because I had more trust in a private organisation, FME, to look after the needs of Malton people with a car park than I had trust in North Yorkshire Council not to sell that piece of land as prime development land. And the fact that about a third of a vastly underused car park would be put to much better use is why I'm making this proposal now, and that was why I made that decision to vote that way. In terms of no consultation, I had extensive consultation with the housing department and planning department before this even started. I must say that housing were absolutely over the moon with the idea of getting some more affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Clark.
Sorry, I should probably apologise for not standing up. I've hurt my foot, so that's why I keep sort of keep sat down. I think it's very much worth pointing out that I do understand Councillor Duncan's concerns with this. And I think it's very much worth emphasising that this site here, Rydale House, is not for sale. We're not about to sell it. We have no plans on selling it, and he could perhaps confirm that there are no plans at the moment from North Yorkshire to do that. As he says, it is used by various other services and organisations who are based here, and this is their home. We are just saying that if it was sold for development, we would like it to be for social house, so affordable housing. Sorry, so that if it did get sold for that, then that's where we would like it to be. I'd also like to say that people, when they're moving into an area, follow services. So if you've got good services in an area for young people, then families will be moving in on the general run. If you've got good services for older people, then families will generally be moving in. There's some good schools near here. There's some good schools very near here. And if you had people moving in, you've got access, you know, a young family is going to be wanting a house that they can afford. And they're going to want good schools nearby. And yeah, I mean, this site is probably better than a lot of other sites which are in the plan in various places. Traffic was another concern, and I think it's worth again noting that a lot of traffic on a morning is school children being taken to school. The majority of children of all ages, if the distance is less than 1 mile, will be walking that distance. And if it's more than 2 miles, they will generally be transferred either by bus or by car to that. And from that logic, this place would be a great place to have people living because it's accessible to local facilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Oxley.
Chair. I've been wrestling with whether this is opportunity or if it's opportunistic, as I've been listening to the debate. I can see little danger in us passing this tonight. It just says we're waving a flag that we would like these to be progressed, to be looked at. That's all we're saying. This is land that, and I speak as a Malton resident. I understand all the problems in Malton. You know, I moved here from Pickering 4 years ago, so I must have understood them. I understood them better now. This is an opportunity. It's not opportunistic. It's an opportunity to do a number of things, in my opinion. One is simply to put this forward and say, let's have a look at it. Let's make some progress. It is land that we own. It is something that we know that could happen. More importantly, it's an opportunity to send a message about how much Rydale District Council members care about affordable housing going forward. We bang on and we bang on about legacy and all the things that we want to do. This is fundamental to the future of Rydale. I'd love to see affordable houses all over Rydale. There is other land that the District Council owns that could be considered. I'd love to see affordable houses in Ampleforth. I'd love to see them in Motherby. I'd love to see them in Sinnington. But this is an opportunity simply to do 3 very simple things. To say, this is something we can do something about. This is a message that we want to send to whatever's coming next that says affordable housing matters to the people of Rydale and matters to us. And thirdly, to actually get the people of Rydale, who we still, for the next 36 days, thank you, Councillor Duncan, represent, to understand just how important that we feel this is. Has it come about the right way? Probably not. Do I see any danger in it? Probably not. Sorry, I don't see any danger in it. I do see upside, and it's simply the message that we send. And ask yourself another question when you consider this. If Wentworth Street Car Park, sorry, the upper tier of Wentworth Street Car Park, which I go through 5 or 6 times a week, and I've never seen a car parked on the upper tier of Wentworth Street Car Park. So it's not a car park, it's just a chunk of land. if we're scared about that, if the livestock market moves, what are we going to do in the central Malton?
Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Chair. I think I echo what Will's saying here, actually. I think it's a good idea. What I'm really concerned about here is this avoidance of the word social. Why are we so like, oh, this is affordable. This is not social. Why are we not having social housing included in this mix? Because there's people in this community. We had a debate yesterday on domestic violence in county and about providing facilities for people that are impacted by that and for applying for more funding. Why are we not including social housing in this? Because we have a responsibility to provide social housing to people in this community. Why are we picking and choosing? So I'd like to propose an amendment that we include social housing in point 1, 2 and 3, if possible. And if I've got someone to second it, then I would appreciate it.
Are you seconding, Councillor Bobden? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it says affordable housing purely because this is what our housing department say. Social affordable housing encompasses social housing as in social to rent and the sort of various tenures that we're talking about doing at a Motherby. So it encompasses everything. My original intention was to say social housing, but because our housing department, who are desperate to get this and the various tenures within it, that's what they say. Affordable housing covers the whole thing. And I might add to that that the idea of having extra care units is also their point in that it's desperately needed in Malton and Norton. And it's only the fact that housing have said that to me and I've said, right, well, I'll include that because then that gives us the option. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to contribute to the debate? Do you wish to propose it, Councillor Mason? On the
If that's the definition that's in there, then I'm happy with it. But I think we need to make sure that social housing is included in this because, you know, how does it look if we're sort of picking and choosing one? So if that is the definition, I'm happy to go ahead with it. It's fine. But I think you're making a point that social housing is just as important.
Thank you. Councillor Clark.
Just as a technical question, is there some way that we can sort of bolt that on as something that we would like to be included in there as a sort of preference, despite the fact that it's still branded as affordable?
Councillor Paul Andrews.
Chair, so everybody else has been able to speak twice. Can I just come back to the point that Councillor Rain made about services? It's all right. It's all very well having loads of social housing and so on, but what happens when you go to the doctor? What happens when you want to get your children into the school? There are no schools. The doctor, it takes weeks to get a doctor's appointment, and the facilities just are not there. And that includes, of course, the services in regard to highway improvements, which are badly needed. Major highway improvements, not just tinkering.
Thank you, Councillor Goodrip.
Thank you, Chairman. We've got them built already, and we haven't really got any money to do that yet. So I think we're kicking this ball around and getting nowhere fast. And frankly, Councillor Andrews knows whether there are appointments at the doctors or not isn't a material planning consideration. We're not allowed to do that. So we're just kicking this ball about. So can I move we go to the vote, Chair? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. We have to debate. Thank you. So we've had it seconded. Everybody's happy with that. So we'll move to the vote. Thank you.
Can I request a recorded vote, please, Mr. Chairman? I think I've got 3 people.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Recorded vote.
Chair, that's 14 votes for, 4 against and 1 abstention.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Agenda.
Can we see the vote, please?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Agenda item 10G. Could I just thank Rachel as well for coming in on that? I appreciate that, Rachel. Item 10G, relocation of the residual grant by Pickering Town Community Interest Company from Newbridge Park to the Community Park in Pickering. This is on pages 197 to 214. So Councillor Keel is going to lead us on this. Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you. I think this should be very straightforward, members. The report is asking you to approve the reallocation of some existing funds that have been awarded to the Pickering Town Community Interest Company, grant funding of 61,750 from the work that they were going to do at the Newbridge Park site, which was identified in the original business plan, to the Pickering Community Park. Which is the monies to support the development of a pump track as a community facility for the people of Pickering for Wydale, the wider Wydale area. So the recommendation is on page 197. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on this, please? Thank you. So Councillor Keel, if you'd like to move the
Yes,
recommendation.
I could move that recommendation, please, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank
We've
you.
got a seconder. Councillor Burr, thank you. Would you like to speak on the recommendation, Councillor Keel?
Yes, just to say, I think this is a good pragmatic move, really. The discussions that have been ongoing around the Newbridge Park site have been difficult, to say the least. So this is an alternative. It still provides a public facility in Pickering. The community park, I believe, belongs to the town council, and they are supportive of this move. It's not asking for new money. It's just asking for the money to be transferred to this project instead of the Newbridge Park one. And I would also like to sort of praise the Pickering Town CIC, because I think they have, during their existence, done a lot in a relatively short space of time, but they have also faced some difficulties, and that they've struggled at times when they've applied for funding and it hasn't come through, but they have picked themselves up, dusted themselves down and applied for more funding, and they are determined to bring real benefits to Pickering with the around the area of cycling and making, as Malton is the food hub of the world, making Pickering the cycling hub of the world. So I highly recommend this proposal to members. I hope it's not going to be a long debate, because I don't think it needs to. I think it's a no-brainer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move into debate. If anybody would like to contribute. Councillor Burr.
Just very briefly, because I said it all at PNR, I think this is absolutely wonderful. I think that we should be applauding this committee. I think that it's got a really good high value for tourism. I think residents make really good use of the cycling facilities, and you know, good luck to them, and I hope they do really, really well with it.
Thank you. Any other offerings? No? Well, if we're pleased with the recommendations and everybody's happy, we'll move to the vote, please. Thank you.
Chair, that's 16 votes for and 1 abstention.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're moving to item 10K, which you may have had as a hard copy as an additional copy. Before we go into the exempt material. And this is sorry, beg my pardon. This is the external auditor's annual report. And this will be proposed by Councillor Middleton. Just to give Councillor Keel a break.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening then, so I don't know.
We're moving into agenda item 10K, the external auditor's annual report. It came through ONS. And it came through as an additional document pack. Nikki's going to bring you one down if you can't find it, or Lily. Have one for each eye.
Sorry, this is the first I've heard that I had to do this, so I just move into the external auditor's annual report that was considered at overview and scrutiny committee. It's recommended that the council note the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Okay. So Councillor Middleton has recommended that. Is it seconded? Councillor Oxley, thank you. Anybody wish to speak in favour or against this proposal? No? Thank you. We'll go straight into the vote then, please. Thank you.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are going to hopefully move into exempt materials now. GH and I on the agenda items. Okay, I would like somebody to propose that we go into exempt, please. Councillor Joy Andrews, I've got a seconder. Councillor Potter, thank you. And if we could vote on going into exempt for these materials, please, thank you.
Sorry, Chair, that's unanimous.
Thank you very much. So we've got to suspend the recording if we just bear with us for a few seconds, thank you. And any members of the public who haven't left, if they'd like to leave, thank you.